Hi, it's Jane, and I'm going to go through a couple of things I did pick up. I had stopped at at Hobby Lobby after my appointment with the dietitian, and there I picked up a couple of pieces of fabric, and one of those is a real pretty different fish fabric. Thought that was a great fabric for summer. Um, Planning on cutting some bags this afternoon. This and some other fabrics. And then I thought that kind of went well with it, so picked up that for the lining. And then I was walking through looking at the flannel, and I saw this. And I was like, oh, that's going to make some cute unpaper towels. So I did pick that up, and I'll be cutting those too a little bit later on this afternoon. So that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. And then yesterday I was at my local Dollar Tree walking through, and they had the reusable stainless steel straws. Now I do have straws, and these are, I'll give you how tall they are. They have some that are 9-inch, 8.9-inch, 9.5-inch, and then there are two 10-inch, and then two 10.5 inches. And then it's got the brush that goes in it and with the silicone tips for it. So it's not a bad price. They do have the little stoppers you can use on the top there. Two of those as well. Not a bad price if you ask me. I think Walmart has them for $8.97. Don't quote me on that. But there are 15 pieces in this set for $1.25. So I did pick up a couple of those. These could also be great gifts to slip into your Operation Christmas Child. They'll slip straight into the back of the box. So just an idea, right? All right, let's get to what I've been working on this week. As you know, I've crocheted with you several times on the crochet afghan, and this is what we have so far on it. Where was my last marker? It was this one. So we've completed that much. I say we because you were with me. So I've completed that much. My sweater is finished. I have not sewn it together. Well, the pieces are finished. I've not sewn it together, and I'm sure there's a neckline and ribbing. And like I said, I wanted to do some pockets for it. So I haven't got that finished. Had a hat that I'd started crocheting for the, I want to say 2 to 5 year old age range. Started it, didn't finish it. And why? Those just take a few minutes. Started a knit hat. This is just a basic beanie, and this is for a 5 to 10-year-old, I think is the range for this hat size. Did get my scrubby finished, and there's that. And that is basically what I have done so far this week. Well, I've done some sewing, but it wasn't sewing that is for the shop. It was sewing for some Operation Christmas Child items. I'd made a couple of aprons, just plain basic aprons. I think I made 2 drawstring tote bags, book bags. That was basically all that I've done so far as that is. Boy, it seems like the world is just falling apart, doesn't it? The riots that are going on in Los Angeles, many on the left are, you know, apoplectic about it, that needs to stop. Trump needs to not send in the... Thank you, Ronan. Trump needs to not send in the troops that he's sending in, Marines, whatever, National Guard. And I disagree. I think he should enact the Insurrection Act here. This morning, I don't know if you've seen where the Mexican president has called for them to increase their violence and rioting because they don't want to have to pay taxes on the remittance that the illegals there send back home. And by that, what I mean is they work or they don't work and they collect all kinds of benefits, and they take that money, they buy money orders, and they send it back to Mexico to their families to boost Mexico's economy. And so I think for a couple of years now, we'd started taxing those kind of things. If any money went back into different countries, which it should. Sorry, I agree with that. That boosts their economy. It doesn't boost our economy. So, but she is calling for more violence and more rioting over that to continue. And she put that out there this morning. So, and there are many people, the military people are saying that is a call for an act of war. I hope not. But, and I'm sorry, if you go to Reddit and you look up the riots, they have staged what they've called riot protests through, I think, the end of July. And they are calling for people to bring out Mexican flags, decry that, Palestinian flags, all kinds of things. They've placed bricks and cinder blocks all over in different cities, pallets of them, in anticipation of this, their protest. Then we have our media that's saying, oh, it's all mostly peaceful. No, it's not, folks. When you see the raw footage, it is not peaceful at all. When you are using weapons and throwing cinder blocks at police officers who are trying to do their jobs and trying to control the crowds, that's not peaceful. That crossed the line. And this mayor there, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, they actually show us why Democrats lost the last election. This is why. People are sick and tired of it. And then you see on Reddit where these forums where they're, planning these further protests, they are telling people to stop waving the Mexican flag, Palestinian flag. They need to start waving the American flag instead. So we'll see if it comes about that people start waving American flags. I highly doubt it. But, yeah. It's going to be an interesting summer of love again. So if you're in those areas, I wish you luck, and I pray nothing bad happens to you or your businesses or your family members as they're trying to get to work, seeing as they've disrupted highways and byways and things for people just trying to get to work. That is not peaceful protest. Sorry. And I have been involved in many protests. And let me tell you, peaceful means you're on the sidewalk. You're not in the streets. You're on the sidewalk or the side of the highway. and you are just chanting, marching, carrying your signs, whatever. You're not trying to hurt people who are trying to do their job. And I'm sorry, these people, I know we want to have sympathy for people who come here illegally because it should be humane and dignified the way that they are sent back to their home country. However, they broke the law. They broke a federal law by coming here illegally. It is federal. So you do not have to give them due process. You do not. We do afford them that in most cases, but you don't have to. They came here illegally. You can send them straight back. And that was something that Obama put into place back in 2011, 2009. Can't remember if it was 9 or 11. But he put that in place. You know, you weren't complaining when he deported 3 million people. But you're complaining because Trump is upholding the laws of this country, which every senator, congressman, any official in our country and president take an oath to uphold the laws of this nation. So, you know, it's going to get ugly. That's what I think. And I'm really saddened by that. All right. Are you ready for a little what in Tarnation? World's smallest violin can't be seen without a microscope. Team of physicists from a British university used nanotechnology to create what they dubbed the world's smallest violin, an instrument that can't be seen without a microscope. The Loughborough University team said the platinum violin measures 35 microns, a measurement unit equal to 1/1,000,000th of a meter long and 13 microns wide. The violin is smaller than the diameter of a human hair, which ranges from 17 to 180 microns. Tardigrades, 8-legged micro-animals, measure between 50 to 1,200 microns long. The researchers created the minute musical instrument to demonstrate the abilities of their new nanolithography system, technology that allows scientists to build and study nanoscale objects and structures. The instrument was chosen as a play on the phrase, "Can you hear the world's smallest violin playing just for you?" The phrase is an expression of mock pity in response to exaggerated complaints or overly dramatic reactions. Though creating the world's smallest violin may seem like fun and games, a lot of what we've learned in the process has actually laid the groundwork for the research we're now undertaking, Professor Kelly Morrison, head of Loughborough University's physics department, said in a news release. And there you have it, a teeny tiny violin. And there's video. Escaped bull causes chaos on city streets. England again. Drivers and pedestrians in Birmingham, England, were left stunned Friday morning when an escaped bull caused chaos on the city's streets. John Cooper said he was working at Small Heath Railway Station in the eastern part of the city Friday morning when something caught his eye. "I saw something go past in the corner of my eye and thought it was a horse," Cooper told Birmingham Live. "I had to go for another look and thought, oh God, it's a bull." Cooper captured video of the bull trotting through roads and stopping traffic. Words can be hard. "The bull didn't seem dangerous, it just seemed lost," he said. The West Midlands Police confirmed officers were dispatched to the scene. We were made aware of a bull in the road near New Bond Street in Birmingham at just before 9:30 a.m. today. We're liaising with Birmingham City Council and other agencies to ensure the animal is taken to a safe location. Police later confirmed the bull was no longer on the loose, but no details of the capture were released. Remember how I told you the story about the two escaped otters and how one had been recaptured, but the other one was still on the loose? Well, the Wisconsin Zoo did update us about the escaped otter. Wisconsin Zoo, escaped otter made the decision to be wild. A Wisconsin zoo announced it has called off the search for an otter on the loose since March, explaining the animal has made the decision to be a wild otter. The new zoo and adventure park in Green Bay previously revealed two otters, Louie and Ophelia, escaped from their enclosure during a snowstorm March the 20th. Ophelia was recaptured and returned to the zoo April the 2nd, but Louie has proved to be much more elusive. At no point during his time away has Louie been spotted and reported to us, repeatedly in the same yard or waterway, which is what would have been required to set traps to bring him home, the zoo said on social media. We did, however, receive enough reports of sightings in the similar areas that lead us to believe that he is healthy and surviving well. The zoo said Louie was born in the wild and is believed to have all the skills and instincts he would need to survive on his own. We expect that he's doing fine out there. The zoo said it is working with the North American river otter species survival plan to try to find a new mate for Ophelia. Do they mate for life? You know, some animals do mate for life. Maybe they don't. Now, I don't know. I don't care what you say. Birds can be pretty smart. We've seen where ravens and crows have figured out that if they drop nuts in the crosswalk, that someone, nuts are enclosed in their shell, that a car, motorcycle, something can come along, hit it, and open up the shell for them to actually get the nut. And they will bring gifts to people. Crows, most especially shiny objects. Ravens do that occasionally, but usually it's other kind of gifts that they'll bring you. Sydney cockatoos learned to use drinking fountains. A team of researchers in Australia published a paper about how the population of sulfur-crested cockatoos in Sydney have learned to operate drinking fountains designed for human use. The team, whose research was published in the journal Biology Letters, said they placed cameras that recorded more than 500 attempts by cockatoos to use public drinking fountains over the course of 44 days. Teams said the birds in the footage were able to successfully operate the water fountains and take a drink about 46% of the time. The behavior consists of a combination of actions involving both feet, bill, and shifting body weight to start the water flow, the researchers wrote. John Martin, a senior ecologist, that's a strange word to have to pronounce, with consultancy from firm A Closure, and co-author of the study, said the team was originally studying cockatoo foraging habits when they witnessed the birds using a drinking fountain at a sports field in western Sydney. So they would go and stand on it, and then they would have to grip the handle and actually push it forward to activate it, then lean over and have a drink. Martin told the guardian. He said the birds apparently learned by mimicking humans. Eventually, one of them got it, and then the others were like, "Ah, this is fun," he said. Martin said the cockatoos are not reliant on the fountain as a water source, as there is a nearby creek. He said using the fountain seems to give the birds enjoyment and enrichment. The flock would come in and they'd all be foraging and drinking, having a bit of a relax and a bit of a laugh, he said. Martin previously co-authored a study revealing that cockatoos in Sydney had learned to open the lids of outdoor trash cans to look for food. So yeah, birds are smart. Peacock creates havoc on a Colorado golf course. A Colorado animal control officer responded to a local golf course to remove an unusual hazard from the fairway, a peacock. The Thornton Police Department said on social media that it was just another day on the green when animal control officers were called to the Todd Creek Golf Club. A wandering peacock had made its way onto the links, creating a hazard for the golfers and the bird itself. The department shared a photo of an officer carrying the peacock in her arms to relocate it, keeping our community and its unexpected visitors safe, police wrote. Rescuers use recorded meows to lure a kitten out of the underground pipe. A kitten heard calling for help from an underground pipe in New York was coaxed out by a rescuer and will soon be available for adoption. Pamela Gallagher, who lives in the Bayshore area on Long Island, said she had heard animal sounds coming from underneath her back deck and called for help from firefighters. Firefighters pulled up some boards and discovered the sounds were coming from about 10 to 15 feet underground, inside a downspout. John DeBacker of Long Island Cat and Kitten Solution responded to the home and played recorded kitten sounds to lure the tiny feline close enough so that he could reach it with a catch pole. The kitten, now named Piper, of course, was turned over to New York City Second Chance Rescue for veterinary care and eventually adoption. DeBacker said he is now trying to determine whether the kitten's mother and siblings are somewhere nearby. He said he is hoping to find the mother cat and have her spayed, so there will not be any more feral kittens from this mama. And that's probably a good idea. I have a friend who traps, neuters, and releases cats, and of course, that's how I got Ronan and Izzy, because they were sick and they needed a lot of care, and I wasn't about to give them up after all that care, because they were just let them loose back in the neighborhood where they were at and where folks were poisoning them. So I was like, nope, not happening. So I did adopt them. And the story about the sounds, the cat's meows to help bring the kitten out, I'm sure they used kitten sounds to bring the kitten closer, so that the kitten probably thought it was his siblings. But if you go to TikTok and you put in cat meows to call other cats, and if you have cats, let it play where your cats are and see how they react. It's hilarious. Now, the first time that I did that, Izzy and Ronan both ears perked up. And then they came in looking for the intruder because they wanted to know where that cat was. Well, Ronan jumped on the bed and kind of looked around and realized it was coming from my phone. He took off. He was fine. Izzy, though, kept looking all over the bed and everywhere for it. And finally she came up and realized it was the phone. And then at that point, she bit my hand. And when I say bite, it's not, she doesn't break the skin. It's just let me know. She doesn't like it, stop it, something like that. So that was kind of funny. And the other night, a moth got in, and I'm sitting there reading, and all of a sudden, both cats jump up on the bed. Their ears are perked up, tails, they're hunched down, tails straight out, hunting mode. And they're like this over my head, and I'm like, what's going on? And I realized there was a moth there. They did catch the moth and proceeded to kill it, eat it. Cats do cat things. And then last night, going to bed, there was a spider over the top of the, almost, not quite on the ceiling, it was on the wall, heading towards the ceiling. And both cats, again, same thing, hunting like crazy. They couldn't figure out how to get it. Well, I had gone in and got one of my, I can't even think of the name of them. The reusable mops, one of those that didn't have the reusable mop head on it. It just had the blank mop head. Didn't have the pad on it. So I took it, knocked it down. Of course, they captured it and proceeded to play with it. They didn't eat it. So, picked it up, flushed it. But I'm telling you, these cats are having fun this time of year. And this is the time of year when critters, start to gravitate inside. The biggest thing I've seen is ants come in looking for water. Of course, it's been raining here again in Pennsylvania. And so the ants don't need to come in, so they quit coming in. But sometimes when it's really dry, they do that. Other than that, the only other thing I've been doing here is going out and in between dry patches, cutting the bamboo. Did have someone ask me if I used it to make baskets, to weave baskets. Well, I've never heard of that. I don't know how you could use that. The bamboo, after you first cut it, gets kind of soft and pliable. And if you let it sit for a couple of days, then it gets hard. But it's not real hard because it's not as thick as regular bamboo. It's a thinner bamboo. You can break the sticks, but I don't think you could use it for anything like that. So now I'm looking to see if I can reuse it somehow. I doubt it. Other than that, I bag it up, put a note on it to let the garbage guys know that it is Japanese knotweed, Japanese bamboo, so that they don't open it up and put it in the mulching to put that out for people in their mulch. Each year, the waste company takes a lot of that kind of stuff that they pick up, turns it into mulch, and then they sell it. Although they do have one day where you can go in and you can get as much as you can carry free. But you gotta be aware of the day that is. But yeah, that's the story of my life, right? I did want to also let you know I'm going to insert a video here that I had filmed. I had told you about going to the food bank, and while I was there, a lot of the people were turning away the avocados that they had. And they had like about 10 flats of avocados that they needed to give out, and a lot of people just didn't want them. So, and one of the gals when I was coming through had asked me if I wanted avocados, and I said, yeah, I love avocados. And they were actually giving 4 out to each person. She told the girl, give her 6. So they gave me 6, and then she's sitting there and she goes, you know what, will you take a flat of avocados? I said, oh yeah, I'll take a flat of avocados. So, they loaded that up, and she had said to me, some fella just took a couple because I wasn't sure if you could freeze avocados. You can freeze avocados. But if you're going to freeze the avocados, you need to make sure that they are ripe when you do that. But here's that rest of that video. And you can freeze them whole. You just want to wash them real well. And like I said, remember to make sure they're washed in whatever container you're putting them in, whether it's a silicone or whatever, that you get as much air out as possible, or use a food saver, seal meal, something like that. The other thing is, if you are mashing them, you can use lime or lemon juice, but you can also put them in freezer cubes, ice tray, that kind of thing. And then you can just put them in a bag, seal them up really good, removing all the air, and it'll work that way as well. All right. This video I'm going to put in with another video a little bit later on for the weekend. But I had told you about going to the food bank and about getting those Earthwise, Earth First, whatever they are, washing sheets that you put into your dryer. Your washing machine. So, but while I was there, I forgot to tell you this part of the story. They had avocados, and I mean, they had flats upon flats of avocados. And everybody had kept declining the avocados for the most part, which I'm not sure why, because avocados are tasty and they're great. So, as I was standing there, the gal, she knows me. We go to the same church. And she said to me, "Do you like avocados?" I said, "I love avocados. You never get enough avocados." She said, "Well, do you want a flat of avocados?" I said, "Sure. If you're willing to give me a flat, I'll take a flat of avocados." So I did get a flat because everybody was declining them and they were going to need to get rid of them. Avocados are one of the very few things that you can actually freeze and use later. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how, I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to tell you about how to do that. You can freeze them whole like this. That's not what I generally do. Generally, I will open them up, either slice them or chop them up. And you want to sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice over them, just so that they don't turn brown. And then you put them in your food saver or, you know, seal meal or whatever they are that you have. That'll take all the air out and seal them up fairly well. Then you can use them, you can put them in the freezer and then use them later. One of the other ways you can do it is to mash it. Basically the same thing, a little bit of lemon juice, that kind of thing into it, so it doesn't turn brown. You can also make your guacamole like you would normally and freeze it. Of course, when you make guacamole, you have lime juice, so that keeps it from turning brown. Same thing, you're just going to make sure that you seal them well. And the same thing when you do them, if you do them whole, you just want to freeze them whole. Now, it does change the texture a little bit. I don't really like having them sliced on my sandwiches afterwards. Um, but I will use, and I do often mash them when they're ripe and freeze it, because you can take that and you can actually slather your bread, your toast, whatever it is you're having, um, hamburger buns, hot dogs, whatever you've chosen to have it with, and use it that way. Instead of mayonnaise or whatever, or just maybe one side mayonnaise and the other the guacamole mix or your mashed avocados. So, yeah, So I did take that whole thing. They're not all ripe. Some of them are sitting on the counter waiting to get ripe. There's a couple that are ripe, and I do check them twice a day because it seems like if you don't, then they ripen overripe overnight. So, then I do check them, and then once they're ready and ready to be cut, I will cut up a bunch of them and slice them, dice them, whatever I'm going to do. I do use a lot of them in smoothies sometimes in the morning. So there's that. Just thought I would give you a little tip about using avocados. All right. Now back to the other video. All right. Now on to the devotional. This is with God. I always have hope. Boy, isn't that true? And this is something we often don't talk about. God's perfect timing. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. Genesis 4:41 through 42. When you are waiting, it can be hard to trust in God's timing, but you can be sure that His timing is always perfect. We can all recall situations in which the timing seemed perfect. Everything aligned beautifully, mostly because we'd had a hand in orchestrating our circumstances. We can also remember the moments over which we had absolutely no control and how helpless or confused we felt in the moment. Joseph, too, likely felt confused as to why God was allowing him to spend years in prison for a crime he did not commit. And you can see Genesis 39:41 for that crime. At just the right time, though, God raised Joseph up for a purpose that went far beyond what he had imagined. Often we try to create moments that only God can create. We network and share business cards, hoping to obtain what we think is best. However, only God can cause promotions, provide opportunities, and open doors perfectly. And in His perfect timing, God sometimes allows our efforts to fail because the timing is not right. He loves us too much to submit to our faulty timeline. Boy, isn't that true? If you are still waiting, it does not mean that God has forgotten you, but that He is orchestrating the perfect timing for your life. And there is a song by Travis and Kate, and it's about a better yes. Basically, when God says no, it means that He has a better yes in store for us. Sometimes we just need to keep that in mind. Reflect. In what areas of my life do I need to trust God's perfect timing? My question would be, what areas do I not need God to trust God's perfect timing? Pray. Father God, you are the author and the finisher of my faith. You are the creator of time. You have promised to make everything beautiful in your own time. Help me to remember that my times are in your hands. Help me to release any doubt and trust in your perfect timing. Declare, God's timing is perfect. Say that again. God's timing is perfect. Act. Consider how you might act in an area in which you have been waiting for God's timing. Take a faith-filled step forward in prayer or a God-directed action of some kind. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I know I'm kind of opinionated, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think we're headed for another summer of love like they did the first time. Basically, because people can't accept that their candidate lost and someone else has won. So, All right, that's it. See you again soon. Try to be kind to one another. Bye.